here has gotten, just like this gentleman said, it's so uncomfortable. I came here to have breakfast with the mayor and have an open discussion, and yeah, you're right, I got my defense mechanism up a little bit too when I'm told something that, when we tried to have a discussion last month, you told me wasn't the case, and I went back and did some digging. I'm not gonna go be Mr. Fact Checker and come out and line this up like an attorney would. Sorry, it's not worth it to me. But by God, there's some holes in it, and we've all said some things that aren't correct, including yourself, and you come up and say you're gonna do all this from a whim. It doesn't work. Be a leader, please. Pull people together and not separate them anymore. Doesn't matter if you've got a 4-to-1 board up there or not. Listen to other people, try and get these things resolved so we can get those out of the background. And mediation or arbitration might be a way to look at that. I don't know which one it might be, but I think there's possibilities versus the lawsuits themselves. And see if we can't move on instead of sitting and beating ourselves up over the past. That's what I would like as a citizen of this city. Thank you. Appreciate your opinion. Well said.
It is a point, and it is not confrontational at all, but to his point, and I too, I've been a 19-year resident of this area, I've been 17 in Orono, and I too have not paid. So I'm not gonna even, what you've done in the past, good or bad, that's what you've done, and you get credit for it. But where I am, I'm on the fire department too, but it goes into the idea of you have a fiduciary responsibility to the city of Orono and the citizens of Orono because it's our money. And the definition of fiduciary is that there is a trust between you and the council and the citizens. And my sense is that trust is not there in this. Public Works is done, but it's not there with the fire department. The citizens don't really understand why, what the cost is, and what the alternatives are. They don't trust that you have an intuition about the building of this fire department. Now, when you say we're going to do that in June, sir, the problem is that you've already approved the new fire station. You've already spent money on the new fire station. And we don't, and you're going to have the contract, and you did that in the last meeting, the gentleman that made it, and said, you don't even know what the cost of these things are, which you just said. I mean, you have an intuition of what this cost is, and that's fine. I mean, but it's not when you're spending 18 million or 10 million or 6 million or whatever you're gonna do. You have to lead us along. And the problem is that we discuss all this in a public meeting, as new costs in a public meeting, like you said. You don't have to vote. You don't have to say a darn thing, and it just happens. That's the trust factor that you haven't given us as a public. Because there are cost issues in this state. And how can you okay an issue a year and a half ago with no idea what it's going to cost, or no idea what it's going to do to the community, no idea what extra you're going to need, once you put the fire station in, all the extras that you're going to need to make that work. I talked to, and then when you hired the Long Lake Fire Chief to be your fire chief, I went to him and asked, in the last whatever number of years, have you had any complaints about the system? And he said, no. We've had virtually, he said maybe there was one complaint. So now we're going out to spend, I don't know, $10 million. We've already spent, $1 million on a truck and a fire chief that really can't be utilized until the end of 25. Theoretically, unless you make some arrangement with Long Lake. We just, it's just hard as a citizen to see that kind of money being spent. And being spent with really not any idea what the costs are going to be. And so I just say that in my opinion, and maybe others, I just think the fiduciary responsibility of the council is not being used or in consideration. You as a council may think that, because I've sat on the city council too. But we as citizens who are paying this money, and you know, if it's not paying taxes, that's, you know, it's going, but, you need to have people in the community involved in this decision. We have no say, no matter what happens now. You know, you pretty much close this off. There should have been a citizens committee put together. When I did the fire, I was on the council in Long Lake. When we did the fire department, and we had the council from Long Lake, we had citizens from Orono, and, you know, we had some real battles. Gage Moore and I just fought tooth and nail on certain of those issues. But at the end, we got a great facility. We haven't had that chance on the fire department. You know, a lot of us who have been here a long time have been pretty happy with not, your argument might be, or probably is, well, it's costing us too much. Well, you can negotiate that a long way, you know, and it's what you're doing with the public works, you know, in other words, we wanted to bring it all in-house. Okay, tell us why, tell us what the cost is, but it doesn't do any good to do it in May or June, because you voted. Now, in the end of May and June, if the costs are too high, will you guys vote again to say we're not gonna do it? I mean, I don't know, I mean, that's your decision. But that's all I have to say. I just think that in this case, the council is failing at the fiduciary responsibility to the citizens of Long Lake, and that's all I have. I mean, Orono, and that's all I have to say. So,
Well, I appreciate your perspective of a citizen of Walsh, because that's what it is. And
citizen of Long Lake. I'm not a citizen.
you were on Walsh Lake City Council, you said.
Wait, yes, it was a long time ago.
Was.
Now I'm a 17-year resident of Warren. The council has to lead. They can't just have people come.
Okay, well, I appreciate your opinion on that, but I disagree.
Okay, well, that's fine. I don't need to hear you disagree with it, because in my mind, you're wrong. I'm just having coffee with you saying that I disagree.
We can agree to disagree.
And I'm gonna
We can agree to
that.
disagree.
Yeah, but I think you're gonna have some trouble on it, you know, going forward on this thing, with the citizens of Orono, and you didn't have to, so I'll leave it at that.
Okay, appreciate it.
Okay.
Kurt, good to see you.
Thank you.